Hey guys, welcome back to Melinda's Messy Sink. So today's video is going to be a soup video. I'm starting with the Pioneer Woman's potato soup first. My husband doesn't like potato soup. Potato soup's my favorite. So I'm going to do potato soup for me, and then I'm going to do broccoli cheese soup for him. So the cooties have hit our house, and this is the first time I've cooked anything in several days. I finally got some antibiotics that's making me feel better, which is a blessing. But I want some good comfort soup. I've been living on Campbell's soup, and it just isn't doing it for me anymore, guys. All right, so let me stop gabbing, and we're going to brown off 6 pieces of bacon. I will go ahead and list Ree Drummond's potato soup link in my description box in case I forget to give you any of the measurements. But we'll be back once this bacon gets browned up and the fat is rendered. Once you get your bacon to your desired crispiness, you're just going to take it out and set it to the side. My bacon did not produce a lot of grease, so I'm going to leave it all in there. If you have an excessive amount of grease, then you're going to want to empty out some of it. Next up, you're going to add in your onions, celery, and carrots. And you're going to want this to cook for a couple of minutes. You're going to want to try to get up all that great bacon flavor, and you'll want to start the process of softening your vegetables. All right, my onions, carrots, and celery have been cooking for a few minutes. Do you see how all of those bacon bits are up? That's what you want. The pan is no longer covered in bacon bits. You've got that all in your vegetables. All right, next up, we're gonna add in our potatoes. The recipe calls for 6 russet potatoes. I got potatoes from Costco or Sam's, I can't remember which one. And those potatoes were massive. So I probably have more than 6 regular size potatoes in there, but that's okay because I love the potatoes. All right. We're gonna add in some spices, salt, pepper, Cajun seasoning. Pepper is however much that you want. Cajun seasoning and salt is a teaspoon. So you can start with the recommended measurements, and then if you want to change it, you definitely can. After it gets cooking, then you're gonna know what it's gonna taste like. I've made this several times, and the Cajun seasoning does not make it hot. All right, we're gonna let these cook about 5 minutes. Next step, we're gonna add 2 boxes of chicken broth. You're gonna wanna give this a really good stir. You're gonna bring this back up to a low boil. What I'm doing is I'm stirring all this up to get any more bits from the potatoes that may have stuck to the bottom of the pot. Once it comes up to a boil, a low boil as they call it, you're going to want to cook this for 10 minutes until your potatoes are starting to get tender. We just came up to a boil, and we're going to cook for 10 minutes. I am going to deviate from the recipe that you have in your description box. I am going to add some rotisserie chicken that I had in the freezer. I'm going to add it to my soup. So I'm going to kind of make some adjustments here. Because I really like a chowder is what I'm gonna kind of make. You could also add corn, and this be a potato corn chowder, chicken potato corn chowder. It is so good, y'all. I'm not gonna add the corn today. I'm just gonna add some chicken so I can get some protein in my diet, since I haven't been eating very well the last few days because I've not been feeling the greatest. So we're gonna let this boil for about 10 minutes. Make sure our potatoes are done, and then I'll be back with the next step. All right, guys, I scooted you down from my counter just a little bit. I have 3 tablespoons of flour, and I have milk, just regular milk. I'm using 2%, but you could use whole milk if that's what you prefer. All right, so we're gonna combine these 2 together, and then we're gonna pour it in our soup. And what she wants us to do, we're trying to thicken that broth up. I checked and my potatoes are tender. We're gonna add our mixture of flour and milk to our soup. We're gonna let this come together, come back up to temperature. And then I'm gonna vary from the recipe again, y'all. I'm sure you can see a trend here. All right, be back as soon as this comes up to temperature. At this point in the recipe, it talks about taking out 2/3 of your potatoes mixture and grinding them up in a food processor. The point of that is to make your soup thick. I like the whole pieces of potatoes, so I'm gonna skip that step. However, I did decide to go ahead and add some corn. So I have 2 cans of whole kernel corn drained that I'm gonna add into this. I'm gonna bring this up to temperature. And then you also wanna add in your cream. And I believe that was a 1/2 cup, but you can check in the recipe. So I went from making potato soup to adding some chicken, and then I kept looking at it, and I was like, you know what? I think that needs some corn too. So, so we are having chicken bacon corn chowder, based off of Pioneer Woman's potato soup recipe. Once this comes back up to temperature, I'm gonna give it a taste for seasoning, and if that's good, then we are almost ready to eat. I checked the seasonings and everything tasted great for me. So I'm gonna turn the heat off, put the lid on, and I'm gonna let this kind of do its thing for a little while, because we all know soup is better the longer that it sits. So we'll be ready to eat shortly. I feel like I've said that 15 times and then I keep making us wait longer. So I'm just gonna let this cool off a bit and kind of just sit and get to know each other better. My soup is all dished out into my bowl. I'm gonna add some cheese and some of that bacon that we cooked in the very beginning to the top. You could also add sour cream. You could add green onions would be another good one. But this is my bowl of potato soup. And this is what's for dinner tonight at our house. Next up, you're gonna see my husband's broccoli cheddar. All right, guys, I am back and we're ready to start my husband's broccoli cheddar soup. Y'all, let me show you this piece of paper. This thing has seen better days. So I will definitely type this out in the description box below. But this is a good recipe if you know the piece of paper looks like that, in my opinion. All right, so this is actually a 2-pot soup, and then at the end you combine everything together. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take some cream of celery soup, and we're gonna put it in our bowl, our pan, sorry. All right, and then we're gonna take 4 cups of, I'm using water and bouillon cubes because I'm out of chicken broth, but you can use the boxed chicken broth if you have it, or you can use the bouillon cubes. They will dissolve as the water starts to heat up. So I'm gonna turn this on and let this come up to a boil. I have a 12-ounce bag of frozen broccoli florets. I'm gonna put it into our boiling water, and we're gonna let this go for about 5 minutes. And this will be up to your desired tenderness of your veggies. So everybody kind of likes them a little different. One thing that after the 5 minutes are done, you see how these pieces are massive? I'm going to take them back out of this liquid and I'm going to cut them down into bite-sized pieces. That is something you do not have to do, but I'm like, nobody can eat that, especially with the spoon. So, so we're gonna let this go about 5 minutes. My 5 minutes is up, and so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this down really low to get me some time to get all this broccoli cut up into pieces. And all I'm doing is I'm just gonna fish out the broccoli. Can you see all that bits of celery from our celery soup? All right, so we're gonna save all this goodness. We just wanna cut this broccoli up into smaller pieces. You can decide if you wanna keep the stems or not. Mine, I'm probably gonna just cut them up. If there's any tough ones, then I'll get rid of those. And I'm just gonna keep on going until I get all of this done, and I'll be back. And just like that, all of our celery and chopped up broccoli is going back in our pot. What I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna switch these pans out so that I can cook in that one, and this one will stay over there simmering. Now that we have our pans all switched out, I've got a stick of butter that I've got in here melting. As this softens, we're gonna add our onions. We've got 1 onion chopped up. We're gonna cook our onion until it is soft. Now that our onions have softened up, we're gonna add flour and give it a really good mix. We're gonna let this flour and onion mixture cook together for a little while to get rid of that raw flour taste. Just takes a minute or so. We're gonna slowly add in some milk. And you're gonna continue to stir the entire time. This is always the part that I'm like, I always have to ask my husband, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Because it's gonna get really thick in a minute. I'm making a mess here, aren't I? I think that's my middle name. The last few days, everything I've touched has turned into this big mess. I've got some seasonings. I've got salt and pepper. I'm gonna turn the heat up on this a little bit and just let it thicken up. And then we'll be back for the final steps. We got a good boil going. Our mixture's thickening. The last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna add in cheese. We're gonna play musical pots again. We're gonna add all of our mixture in with our broccoli and broth. We're gonna give this a really good stir and get our flour mixture incorporated well with our broth and broccoli. It looks delicious. And that's it. That is how easy it is to put this broccoli soup together. My husband will be home from work in a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and move this off the burner and get it covered with a lid so that it stays warm and lets those flavors marry together. And here is my husband's dinner tonight, cream of broccoli soup. And that's gonna do it for this video, y'all. Thank you so much for following along, and don't forget, Jesus loves you.